Hello and welcome to FP Live. I'm Ravi Agrawal, Foreign Policy's Editor-in-Chief. Iran and Israel are locked in a fierce and prolonged fight. How will it end? And what will the Middle East look like when it's all done? In a moment, I will speak with one of the world's foremost experts on Iran and US foreign policy in the Middle East. If this is your first time joining us on FP Live, welcome. We'll take some subscriber questions as always. And if you would like to join in, use the code FP Live for a discount. We're also a podcast. Just look for FP Live on your favorite audio platform. And I should also say, we were originally planning to run an episode on Indonesia today. That has been postponed to next month, given the news in the Middle East. So let's dive in. Israel's attacks on Iran are now well into a fourth day, and Iran is continuing to respond with drone and missile attacks back. The reason that Israel began these attacks on Friday, its leaders say, is that they had intelligence Iran was nearing a nuclear weapon and they wanted to put a stop to it. To that end, Israel has targeted and killed several nuclear scientists in Iran and has damaged a facility in Natanz. But the main facility in Fordow, buried deep into a mountain, is much more difficult to target and is said to require bunker busters that only US planes are equipped to carry. So these attacks could go on for several days. How does it end? Joining me now is Vali Nasr, a professor at Johns Hopkins University and a top former advisor in the US State Department. He's the author of many important books, including most recently Iran's Grand Strategy, A Political History. Vali, welcome back to FP Live.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So let's just start with some of the military dynamics. It seems like Israel has taken out a large part of Iran's air defenses, which are allowing it to bomb areas even deep inside the country. It has also degraded Iran's ability to launch missiles. Is that your assessment? And if so, how does that impact the next few days of this conflict?
Well, it's very clear that Israel has the run of the skies. Now, whether it has total freedom to operate, I don't know, but it's very clear that they're able to target varieties of cities, varieties of civilian infrastructure sites, as well as even residential areas, carry out assassination targets. But whether or not they're able to have a free run at actually hitting nuclear sites, it remains to be seen. In other words, some of those nuclear sites you can hit from a distance and the long-range air defenses are not there, but whether they can actually hover around on top of those sites and carry out much more saturated bombing of the sites, and whether Iran has capability to launch short and medium-range missiles to defend those sites, is still open to question.
And while we're on that topic, Vali, talk to us a little bit about how much Israel can do alone and at what point might it want or need American support. And I'm asking primarily here about the nuclear plant at Fordow, which is buried about 90 to 100 meters underground. And it's said that you need these 20,000 pound, 30,000 pound munitions that you bunker busters basically, for which you need a B-2 plane to be able to drop it. Israel doesn't have that. So how would it be thinking about how much damage it can cause?
Well, Israel's attack on Iran has been two-pronged. On the one level, it's gone after the nuclear sites, which supposedly was the main aim for this campaign. And at the second level, it's gone after the leadership of the state, particularly the security apparatus, the military apparatus, in order to make it difficult for Iran to plan for a war and conduct a war. And I think there it has probably been more successful at the beginning in that it eliminated 7 top Iranian generals, virtually the commanders of all the key forces in IRGC and the commander-in-chief of the army, and even the intelligence chief of IRGC recently. But there also the damage is limited in the sense that it's very clear that Iran has regrouped and is capable of carrying out the missile attacks against Israel. On the nuclear front, Iran has hit the Natanz facility, which is a key facility, but according to IAEA, it's not clear whether it's damaged actually the cascades of centrifuges that are underground. And we won't know unless there's an inspection of the site or some other secondary evidence. The main source of concern is the Fordo facility, which is deeply buried inside of a mountain. And there, Israel really needs the United States in order to do any damage to that site. And even there, it's not clear after a lot of the bombing how easy it might be for Iran to reconstitute the program. So, the war's aim at this stage is to hobble Iran's program, to create a lot more distance between where Iran is and where a nuclear weapon would be. But Israel is nowhere close to achieving those war aims yet.
And Vali, you mentioned with the taking out of the top leadership of the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, how capable do you think the people who have stepped into the breach, how well equipped are they to manage Iran's defenses, but also their offensive operations now?
I think they're showing that they're perfectly capable. In other words, IRGC, regardless of what you think of it politically in terms of its behavior, is a professional military organization. It has a chain of command. People who have stepped in obviously have been in positions of control. They know the way things are done. What is not very clear to us is how is the war planning happening, because these are younger commanders. They still have to consolidate their own position. The relationship with the political leadership of the state, particularly the supreme leader, is new. The relationship with one another is new. And no country can lose the commander of its Air Force, Navy, ground forces, intelligence, all in one swoop. And one assumes that it does not impact decision-making and war planning. In fact, the way Iran is responding is to me, is a bit surprising. That IRGC has been able to, carry on and push back and retaliate at the pace that it has done. But we know a lot less about these new leaders that have stepped in than we knew about the ones that were eliminated.
That would make sense. 1 year ago, Vali, all of this that we're seeing, it would have been unimaginable, in part because of Hezbollah's strength, thousands of well-armed fighters right on Israel's border. They've largely been neutralized after the coordinated pager attacks last fall. Do you anticipate now any of Iran's proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, or even the Houthi rebels in Yemen, also militias in Iraq, do you anticipate any of them playing a role in the next couple of weeks?
I don't think Iran intends to activate them, largely because it would only expand this war in ways that might bring the United States in. And that's not something that Iran is looking for. It is also conceivable that at some point, those proxies may feel an existential threat to their own existence because of Iran's changing role, and they may act on their own. Or that if Iran's command and control, let's say over the Houthis or the militias in Iraq, erodes much faster, then those militias will not necessarily disappear into thin air. And they may act in varieties of ways, from integrating into, let's say, the Iraqi state, laying down their weapons, making peace with established orders, to actually becoming much more radical and behaving in more dangerous ways. Currently, the Houthis have a ceasefire agreement with the US. That's very convenient for Iran. They have a ceasefire agreement with Saudi Arabia. Iran is not looking to disturb those. They don't want to change Saudi Arabia or US's position. They don't want to invite an attack by Israel or the United States in Iraq, and therefore they're not disturbing the scenario in Iraq. I think at this moment, Iran's proxies are not really part of this war. And this is a war of missiles and Air Force and drones and cyber attacks for the time being.